Hey everybody, this is James from the Timur podcast, and in today's video I want to do a faction overview for the mod Tsardoms 1448 campaign, Fall of Constantinople. And this is a mod for my favorite video game, Medieval 2 Total War. So I made a video showing all the playable factions here in the campaign, but it was kind of a very broad overview, and now I want to get into the actual meat and potatoes of each faction. So for today's faction, I have chosen Serbia. So let's take a look at these guys right off the bat. This is the Despotate of Serbia. You start with 7 settlements, you are Orthodox Christian, you have allies, the faction Sili or Kili. I'm not sure which way to say that, but they are to your northwest. If you look at the map over here, they are up here. So a little ways away, but hey, at least you have an ally. And you start at war with the Hungarians, who are very powerful. If we look at the map, they are all along your northern border. And then you also start at war with the Bosnians. So for comparing the two, they are your immediate neighbors to the west, and you are at war with them. So, as for the historical background, I'm not going to read all this, but I am going to just kind of go through it. So if you want to pause the video, there is so much historical background for these guys. It's amazing, this mod, what they've done, just the amount of research and writing that goes into every single faction. Every faction in this mod is so unique. I think that's kind of the craziest thing about it. Okay, so now that that's gone, let's look at the victory conditions. For the long campaign, which they call expansionism, you have to hold 40 regions, including all of these, which, as you can imagine, they're kind of in the Serbia area and surrounding regions. With the exception of Constantinople, which is over here in the Dardanelles. So you do have to hold Constantinople. For the short campaign, you only have to hold 25 regions, including a lot of the ones you would need anyway. So the strengths of Serbia, as outlined by the modders, are a good mix of Western and Eastern style units, powerful cavalry. And you can see here that the Serbian Hussars, or Gusars, are one of the unique units you get, and I do love these guys. They are fantastic. Weaknesses of Serbia: Western style units, not as good quality. That's definitely true. You do have Western style units, but you're not a Western faction per se. So you got to be a little careful with that. Factional nobility, sure, I can see that as a weakness. Powerful neighbors, absolutely. I mean, you are wedged between two of the biggest factions in the game. There we go. I had a little bit of trouble talking. Anyway, so that's kind of just the overview here on the main menu. Let's jump into the actual campaign and take a look at their starting position. So here we are at the campaign, and this is the screen you will see right away when starting as the Serbian faction. So welcome to the Fall of Constantinople, and with this mod you're given kind of a welcome scroll with each faction that gives, again, more historical background. A lot of it is the same what was shown in the main menu, but I'll just scroll through this really fast. Yeah, so the big thing with Serbia is you are surrounded by potential enemies, and you're not as strong as you used to be. Anyway, there are a few scripts that you have the decision of whether to accept or decline. Garrison script, well, I kind of went through this, but I'll go through it again. Garrison script gives more troops and armies to the AI when you besiege their settlements. The AI is notorious for leaving their settlements, even their capital city, completely unguarded. So this is just a way of kind of evening the playing field a little bit. I'm going to decline that for now. Historical campaign path. This, as you can read, it just includes a couple invasions, a couple of scripts that does its best to mirror history or some historical events, and I would greatly encourage you to always accept, because that is what makes this mod so beautiful, is the history and the attention to detail. And then last but not least, a hardcore gameplay. This is oh yeah, for changing your capital it costs 4,000 gold, which is a pretty big sum. And then for your maintenance of army in enemy territory, it actually costs money, so I'm going to decline that for now. But yeah, some good options. So let's take a look. Right off the bat, we can see that we have 7 regions, including 3 castles and 4 cities. We start with 5,000 gold, which is not a lot. If I scroll down here, you can kind of see the regions we need to control in order to win the game. And we also need to, control 40 regions. We have 328 turns to do it, though, so that should be plenty of time. So, starting with cities, Smederevo is your capital, and I apologize if I'm saying any of these names wrong. I am not an expert on how to say some of these historically accurate names, but it starts off as, what is this, a fortress? That's pretty good. And unique buildings, you have the actual fortress, which, look at that picture, that's pretty cool. And look at all of this historical information, quite a lot. Your faction leader is this guy. I am not going to attempt to say his name, but he's actually a pretty good general. Little bit old, but that's okay. And yeah, you can train some great units right off the bat. We'll look at the units again in the second half of this video. So construction, you can see kind of, well, first of all, just a lot of these custom pictures I love. I think some of these are from other games. Just beautiful. The amount of detail is so good in this game. I keep saying that, but I can't get over it. You do have a couple castles or small settlements dotted around. Diplomat, spy, assassin, priest, kind of standard. Going down in the southwest direction, we have this small town here. Not many people there, but I want to say there's some pretty good mines there. Yeah, they're halfway decent. So that's pretty good. And then you also start with Saxon Immigrant Village, which lets you train some Saxon halberdiers. And they're a pretty good unit. 7 attack, effective against armor and cavalry. That's nothing to joke about. And then we have the Castle of Ross down here. You'll be training some of your troops from here. It's not as developed as Smederevo, but it can get there. And then you have, actually, we'll go over here first. So this is your eastern border here, bordering the Turks. And you start with a pretty decent stack there, as well as some cavalry down here. Losing population, but that can be quickly fixed. And then we get down here, which is kind of, I was going to say heartland, but as this is Kosovo, I probably should refrain from saying whether or not this is. Anyway, I'm just going to move on. So you have a city here, which is pretty well developed, 6,000 people. You can train some good things there. Mines, decent mines. And then you have one of the best cities, I would argue, in the game, because Novo Brdo it's extremely wealthy, largely due to the mines. And I want to say, historically and geographically, there's an extinct volcano here in which they mined, and it's just very mineral rich. So you can really build this city up to just being a huge moneymaker. It is right next to all the Turks, so you have to watch out for that, but it can be great. And then last but not least, way over here, almost on the Adriatic. Well, I guess not. No, those are Venetian. Never mind. You don't quite have access to the Adriatic, but you do have a castle over here with a small garrison. Nothing too special. Some Albanian cavalry, spearmen, and bowmen. And that's pretty much it. Let's look at faction heir is Prince Lazar over here. Starts off with a nice amount of dread that can be useful. You've got a couple generals just kind of dotted around, which is nice. But that's the problem, is you are surrounded on all sides by enemies. So let's toggle off the fog of war just to kind of look at our situation. And to the south and to the east, you have the Turks, and they start off with a full stack inside that city. They quite a few troops over here, and they are definitely going to be crossing into your land at one point or another. You don't start off at war with them, thankfully, but war with the Turks is going to start real soon. To the east, across the Danube, is the Wallachians. I want to say you start off on pretty good terms with them. Let's take a look. Yeah, outstanding. They like you quite a bit. In the few campaigns I've played as the Serbians, I've never really had any trouble with the Wallachians, but still something to keep an eye on. To the north, well, maybe we'll do them last. Yeah, well, no, we'll just do it now. To the north is the Hungarians, and they are your sworn enemies, at least at the beginning of the game. They are a very powerful faction. They have a lot of troops, and they will be attacking you pretty much non-stop from the very beginning of the game until the end of the game. And you can see right here, just inches away, well, just miles away from your capital, is a Hungarian citadel, and citadels are very rare in this mod. Plenty of troops there, and then we obviously have Janos Hanyadi over here, who is getting prepared to invade the Turks with the fateful Battle of Kosovo. But he starts off right on your borders, so that could be problematic. Yeah, the Hungarians will pretty much always be a thorn in your side in this mod for the Serbian campaign. And then to the west, speaking of traditional enemies, you have the Bosnians over here, and they start off a bit smaller than you, a bit less powerful, but they don't have the enemies you have, and it's very likely that they're going to focus everything they have on you. So, yeah, and you only start 1 or 2 turns away from their capital city, so you got to look out for them too. We also have the Republic of Ragusa over here that almost borders you. And again, this is another faction you have to look out for. They do not have many expansion options in the early game, and Serbia is often where they choose to try and expand. So it's only a short journey around these mountains for them. Look out. Then to the south, there are a couple of Venetian colonies. The Venetians have never really bothered me too much as Serbia, but they do have some really good units right off the bat. So again, someone else to watch out for. Across the sea are the Sicilians. They have crossed the Adriatic in a few of my campaigns, but it's pretty rare. So yeah, keep an eye on them, but I don't think you have to be too worried. And then also to the south are the Albanians. And you would think that the Albanians have their hands full, being invaded by the Turks pretty much right away. But so many times I have seen the Albanians come and attack Serbia. So be careful. Maybe try making an alliance with them if possible, or hitting them first. I did that in my last campaign of Serbia. I wiped out Albania before anyone else. So that's a problem. You don't have many friends. Your only allies with the beginning of the game are the Principality of Kili, which is way up here. They are not going to be able to help you anytime soon. At best, they'll be able to distract Hungary a little bit if that war starts, but for now, you're pretty much entirely on your own. And from let's see if this is, okay, it says reputation mixed, but from my experience of Serbia, people don't like you that much. It's very hard to find alliances. I mean, that's pretty subjective depending on how you play the game, but that's been my experience. As for potential allies, It's kind of a... You can ally with whoever you get the chance... I don't even know what I'm saying right now. Your allies, you got to take whatever you can get. There we go. So, a couple obvious contenders would be other Orthodox Christian factions. The Byzantines or the Romans are an obvious example, and then to the north, the Wallachians or Moldovans, or even way over here to Kiev. They typically accept alliances, but at that point, they're so far away, it's kind of like, what's the point? I usually just do it for role-playing, trying to unite all the Orthodox Christians together in a grand alliance. Another possibility, and I've done this a couple times, is betray Christendom in a way and ally with the Turks. And this kind of assures your southern and eastern border, because AI typically they respect alliances. They don't backstab you like in the vanilla version of the game. So that is definitely an option. Ragusa could possibly be an ally. If you want to, Venice could be a possible ally. But I doubt either of those two factions will accept an alliance right away. So that's pretty much it. The other problem with Serbia is there are no rebel factions close to you for, that initial expansion phase. If you want to expand, you have to attack other factions right away. So that could be a problem. If you like to play aggressively like I do, then you can deal with it, but it is something to be aware of. So that's pretty much it. As for scripts, I don't want to give everything away, but I will say that the Ottomans will be attacking you at some point, regardless or not if you're allied with them. Now, the Ottomans are kind of a glass cannon in this mod. The AI of the Ottomans can kind of easily be manipulated. In that you can kind of force them to accept a ceasefire at any point. They'll gladly accept it. So as soon as you learn that, they're not as big of a threat as they should be in this mod, but there's only so much you can do. This game is about 7,000 years old right now, so I totally understand those limitations. The only other thing I would say, and this could be a bit of a spoiler, but if you attack this citadel here, I'm just gonna do it, lay siege, you'll see that almost a full stack army just appears out of nowhere. And this happens whenever this citadel is besieged for the first time, and it's actually a crusade. It's a historical event. Franciscan friar Giovanni de Capistrano basically rallied together an army to fight off the besieged, and it's a pretty decent army. It's not the best, but it's got some great units in it. So that is something to be aware of. But other than that, that's kind of everything for now for the campaign side of things. So let's jump into the actual battle map and look at most of these Serbian units. Alright, so here we are over on the battle map, and as you can see, I have kind of collected I'd say the main units of Serbia. There are definitely more units that you can recruit as the Serbians, mercenaries and regional units and whatnot, but this will be the bulk of your kind of mainstay Serbian units. So let's begin with your general's bodyguard unit, the Despot's Guard. You can see the 23 soldiers, only an attack of 3, which isn't great, but I believe it is armor piercing. I can't really see if they have swords or maces. I believe it's armor piercing though. But the thing about heavy cavalry is you're going to want to use them for the charge. A 14 charge is devastating. 32 defense is very good. 20 armor, 9 defense skill, great. Shield of 3 isn't wonderful, but with the armor of 20, they don't really have to worry about that. They inspire nearby troops, they have excellent morale, and a powerful charge. So, yeah, I mean, they're just a great heavy cavalry unit. There's not much more to say about that. The only downside, I would say, is they don't have as much defense as some of their western and even eastern counterparts. And that's kind of that's kind of a problem that Serbia faces a lot of times is they have very good units, but they're not quite as good as their neighbors. But at the same time, they don't have many weaknesses. They have, I would say, one weakness, but we'll get to that in a little bit. The only other thing I would mention about these guys is they don't have great stamina. They're just average. Units with good stamina are rare in this mod, and units with very good stamina are very rare in this mod, so you have to take them where you can get them. So let's go through the infantry first, and I have them kind of in a line here. So one of your main militia units in the early game are going to be these guys, Slavonic Peasant Spearmen. There's 150 of them in a battalion or a group, whatever you would call this, and they are terrible. They're just absolutely terrible. I would encourage you never to use them except for garrison duties, because they will just melt away in pretty much any sort of fight. An attack of 1, a charge bonus of 2, a defense of 5. Most of that is a shield, so any type of arrow fire is going to devastate them. They have poor morale, so they break easily. They do have good stamina, oddly enough. And they can do a little bit of damage against cavalry in the right scenarios, but overall their job is to garrison towns and be cheap bodies that you don't care if they die or not. And they do that job well. So that's those guys. Let's move on to another militia unit, and you can see them hiding in the grass here. I wonder if I can get them somewhere where they're not going to hide. No, they're pretty intent on hiding no matter what. But these are the, not going to say that word, X-Men. And despite them being a militia unit, I love these guys. They are cheap to recruit, they are cheap to maintain, and they can pack a punch for being a low tier militia unit. So if we look, they can hide in long grass. That's why they're hiding now. Effective against armor, which is great. A lot of heavily armored units in this mod. So anytime you can get effective against armor, that's good. Combat bonus in the woods, sure thing. Good morale. Decent for a militia unit. And then very good stamina. And as I was just saying, so few units have very good stamina in this game. It's worth a lot when you can get it. And their attack is 4, charge bonus of 3, total defense of 12. So yeah, they don't look that great, and they will die pretty easily, but again, they are cheap and they are easy to recruit, and they can do quite a bit of damage and hold their ground for a reasonable amount of time. The only thing I would say that's disappointing about these guys is they can only be recruitable in Serbian regions. So yeah, there's I'd say about 10 to 12 regions where that's possible. And then other than that, you're going to have to bring reserves from your homeland to basically refill their ranks. But other than that, these guys are great. I recruit them pretty much whenever I can because they are cheap and effective. So let's move on to kind of a similar unit. Another name I'm not gonna try and say, but basically just mace men. They have, if we compare these two, they have more armor, less defense skill, but armor is typically better, and they are okay. I don't love these guys, despite the fact that they look awesome. I mean, just look at these designs. Their shields and their helmets and everything. I love how they look, but yeah, they're not the greatest. A 2 attack is really low. I mean, they do have effective against armor and combat bonus in woods. That can help them. Good morale. That's nice, but that attack it hurts them in the long run. 13 defense, most of that being armor and shield. That's nice, but again, that attack is terrible. I really only recruit these guys as a last measure to garrison a city that might be attacked soon. I don't believe you can recruit these guys in any city, but that's pretty much all I have to say about them. Despite looking awesome, there's just better units. I would say either get these guys instead or later units that we'll talk about. Alright, so now we've covered them. Let's move on to kind of your main line infantry, and I would expect that for most of the game, these guys are going to be your main line. The Serbian Spearmen, just a very generic spear unit, and they do their job well, which is basically hold the line until other units can do the actual killing. They aren't the worst as far as spearmen go. They're pretty kind of middle of the line. An attack of 3, charge bonus of 3 is bad, but they do get a bonus against cavalry, and that's what they're mostly going to be needed for. And the thing with spearmen in this mod is you use them to absorb cavalry charges, and they will lose a lot of guys if the enemy charges into them, but it will save some of your better units. Yeah, a total defense of 16, that's nothing to laugh about. With an 8 shield defense, that's pretty good. So they can absorb some arrow fire too. And they're also, recruitment cost 600, that's not bad at all. And I want to say their upkeep isn't horrible either. So yeah, Serbian Spearmen, pretty decent unit. And then next up we have pretty much just the direct upgrade. Heavy Spearmen. These guys have this really nice giant Pavis style shield, and just look at the different designs you've got on this. This mod is just amazing. They can, actually both of these guys can form a Schildtrum, which is, you know, this ring of spears, which can be useful. I don't use it too much, but I do use it. And let's take a look at these guys. Can do Schildtrum, bonus fighting cavalry, good morale, combat bonus in woods. So pretty much just the same thing, but you'll see it's a direct upgrade. So instead of a 3 attack and charge bonus of 3, they have 4s, and then with the defense, total defense 16, these guys get a defense of 20, and you can hear them cheering in the background as I read their stats. So pretty good unit. They're actually not much more expensive either. Yeah, just a very good spear unit. I would get these guys whenever you can. They're just a direct upgrade from your other spearmen. Okay, let's go on to basically the teeth of the Serbian infantry, the next couple of units. So we have heavy swordsmen, and I really love these guys. I love how they look. I mean, just look at their armor, they're kind of curved swords, a few of them have. This command is showing me his rear, which is very rude. So let's take a look at these guys. An attack of 6 for a sword and board unit, that's pretty darn good. A charge bonus of 4, again for infantry, very respectable. Total defense 25, 15 of that being armor, 4 shield, 5 defense skill. That's very good for a sword unit. Excellent morale, that's always great to see, and may charge without orders. That's typically not too big of a deal, I would say. You don't really have to worry about that. Yeah, quality superior. The only thing about them is you have to recruit them from your special feudal buildings, which for me that's not a problem because it typically means you can get them in most regions and they get free upkeep. So they're expensive for infantry, but they're not horribly expensive, and they get free upkeep in settlements where you have your feudal buildings. So just a great unit. I definitely use them as my go-to garrison units because of the free upkeep, and I mean that 25 defense and 6 attack. That's just a pain to get through no matter what you throw at them. But they're not my favorite Serbian infantry unit. My favorite Serbian units, as far as infantry go, are the next 3 units. So first of all, we get dismounted Serbian knights, and first, I just love these guys so much. Take a look at them. They look so cool. They got swords and maces, the shields, the armor, just amazing, amazing design with the Tsardoms team. If we look at them, effective against armor, that's always good. excellent morale, good stamina for infantry is always valuable. I'll say that a million times. Attack of 5 is a little low. It's actually lower than the swordsmen, but I would still take it because it's effective against armor. And if you don't know, effective against armor basically ignores half of the enemy's armor stats. So if they're fighting a unit that has 10 for their armor, it just goes down to a 5 automatically because they're using maces to crush through the armor, which is pretty cool. And then for defense, total defense is 27, 17 armor, 7 defense, and 3 shield. That's just insane. These guys are tanks. Really, the only thing that's a real problem for them is cavalry charges, as they will lose a lot of men with that, just because cavalry is so overpowered in this mod and this game. But yeah, I love these guys. They're one of my favorite units. They are expensive. Recruitment costs 900, and then I think they're 400 or 450 upkeep, something like that. But they're also feudal units, so they get free upkeep in regions which have those feudal buildings built. All right, then we get into units that can effectively stop enemy cavalry from causing havoc, and that is Serbian halberdiers. I love these guys. They look pretty cool. 6 attack is very great for a halberdier unit. Charge bonus of 5. Typically, you're not going to charge halberdiers. That might be a little glitched anyway, but yeah, good stats. Total defense 18, 11 of that being armor. They obviously don't have shields, because they're using this two-handed pole arm, but good morale, combat bonus in woods, effective against armor, bonus fighting cavalry, and can form spear wall. That is exactly what you want, so that you can stop cavalry in their tracks. And then we get to Serbia's like unique unit. They have a lot of unique units, but this is just, they're elite halberdiers, and you can only recruit them in 2 or 3 settlements. Yeah. There's actually more than just this one, but they are incredible. Attack of 8, charge bonus of 6, total defense of 26 for a unit which doesn't have shields, although these guys do have shields on their back, but they don't get stats for that. Recruitment cost is very high. Upkeep cost is also very high. I want to say they take 4 or 5 turns to recruit too, but absolutely worth it. They're just like these guys, just a direct upgrade, but they also inspire nearby troops. So if you throw them in a choke point, they will hold forever. Just a great unit. One of Serbia's best. Now let's get into missile units, and this is where Serbia's biggest weakness is, I would say. You do not have the best missile units, and all of your neighbors, every single one of them, outclasses you with missile units. So you can kind of get by with various mercenaries, but other than that, this is, I would say, Serbia's biggest weakness, and it's not as big a weakness as other factions might have, but it's still something to be aware of. So you start off with the Meropsi archers, and these are just peasant archers. They're only recruitable in Serbian regions, and their job is just to die. That's pretty much it. Total defense of 5 is terrible. Melee attack is 1, horrible. Missile attack of 2 is okay. They can get a few kills here and there, but really you're only going to want them to fill the ranks if nothing else is available, and to garrison settlements. They do have good stamina though, and I believe their secondary weapon is an axe, which is effective against armor, but I could be wrong on that. But I would not rely on them for anything. Still, I like their design though. These like vests they got, that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's get on to the actual missile units you have. We start with the Serbian crossbowmen, and despite looking pretty awesome, they're not the best. They're just not the best. They have no abilities, and I would say most notably, they don't have long-range missiles, which you want for your missile units. They have a pretty average range. Their missile attack is an 8, and that can do damage. So any crossbow unit is valuable. But a defense of 7, only 4 of that being armor, means they will die and return fire pretty easily. And then a melee attack of 2 means pretty much anyone who attacks them hand-to-hand will win. These guys might even win hand-to-hand, although it would probably be pretty close. So I don't love Serbian crossbowmen, but I will say in their defense, they are very cheap, and they do get free upkeep in Serbian regions. Oh, that's the other thing, is they are landlocked area of recruitment unit, only recruitable in Serbian regions. Still, I do use them. They're okay, but I would much rather get the next unit. So the next unit are your Serbian bowmen. And first of all, my favorite thing about them is just how they look. I love their design. They've got these shields on their back. They got this kind of like lamellar armor. I just think they look really cool. They're not the best archers. They're okay. But I just love their design so much that I typically rely on these guys for my main missile units. So total defense of 13, armor 6, defense 3, shield 4, which means that with incoming missiles they have a defense of 10 because defense skill gets, it doesn't matter for that, which is pretty decent. They will usually be able to match enemy fire, at least in the early game. Melee attack of 2 is terrible, charge bonus of 1 is horrible, but the thing about the Serbian bowmen is they can lay stakes, which laying stakes is such an overpowered, I would say, almost exploit in this game, but at the same time it's almost very necessary. It's so powerful that anytime you get it, it's valuable, and it's actually pretty rare in this mod. So just the fact that these guys can lay stakes and they have long-range missiles makes them worthwhile for me. Plus, a 480 recruitment cost is very low, and I want to say their upkeep is like 183 or something like that. It's really not half bad. Then we have 2 more missile units. We'll go to the arquebusier first, and these are your gunner units. They're okay. Any gun units in this game are valuable and can change the tide of a battle because gunpowder is very powerful. Good morale is pretty decent. That's definitely appreciated. But other than that, not too much stands out. I mean, other than their missile attack of 26, that is devastating. You know, I take that all back because a few things do stand out. Melee attack of 5 for a missile unit, that is actually pretty darn high. I mean, if we look at the archers, that's a melee attack of 2. So, you know what, I take it back. These guys have something going for them. And then for total defense, they actually have pretty good armor, 9. That's pretty high up there. They don't have long-range missiles, which is pretty typical for a lot of early gun units, but I do enjoy these guys. I use them whenever I can. Pretty much every faction I will recruit guns as often as I can just because of how powerful they are. They're pretty easy to recruit after a few turns. I believe they take 2 turns to recruit. But other than that, yeah, just a solid unit. Not the best gunners. The Turks and the Hungarians will far outclass you, and the Venetians and the Ragusans, but it's better than nothing. So there you go. And then the last missile unit that I would say is notable are the Slavonic Javelin men, and these are peasant militia grade. But I do recruit them pretty often. First of all, because they're dirt cheap. It doesn't say here, but they don't cost much. They're pretty easy to upkeep and recruit. They get free upkeep in various cities. Good stamina is very, very good, as we've said a million times. Combat bonus in woods, good. Can hide in long grass, good. Total defense is 6, melee attack is 1. All of that is garbage so far, but a missile attack of 9. Javelins are powerful, and they can kill a lot of guys, even elite units. So for the cost, or the lack thereof, a 9 missile attack is worth it. And that's pretty much all I have to say about them. Okay, so now let's get into the Serbian cavalry. And the cavalry is typically what Serbia is known for. Yeah, so let's look at this. Who do we got first? These guys are your go-to medium lancers. I like them a lot. The Pronajar cavalry, I'm not sure how you say that. And they're just very average medium cavalry, as it says here, average. Good morale, powerful charge. Yep, charge attack of 11. They only have an attack of 2, so once they're actually in the melee, they're not gonna perform too well, especially against other cavalry. But you recruit them because you want this charge bonus of 11. And then total defense of 16 is pretty average. Again, it's not horrible, but it's not good. 9 armor, that is nice, but they're just, yeah, they're medium lancers, and they don't offer much more than that. So you have to rely on them for what they're made for. They are feudal units though, which means they get free upkeep and settlements where feudal buildings are built. And I believe, yeah, you can recruit them anywhere, as long as feudal buildings are built and the faction religion is high enough. So yeah, pretty standard unit. But then we get into the Serbian heavy cavalry, the knights, the Serbian knights. These guys are just awesome. Just look at the plumes on their helmets and everything. 52 soldiers, yeah. Attack of 6, so definitely can hold their own in melee. And then a charge bonus of 18 is crazy. That is a devastating charge. Total defense is 28, which is good, but it's not great. The Turks and pretty much all the other Western powers will have better units, better heavy cavalry than you. By the end of the game, they're going to be heavy cavalry with mid-30s or high 30s for defense, and so you do have to watch out for that. 28 is just a little too low. Excellent morale, powerful charge, may charge without orders. Yeah, they're good, but there are a few drawbacks other than the 28 defense. They're very expensive. 1175 for recruitment, and then I believe 600 for upkeep is crazy. But they are feudal, which means they get free upkeep in the correct settlements. Just a few more to go. Serbia also has some horse archers, which, first of all, I love their design. They look sick. I just love how these guys look. And they are not that great. They're okay. They will do their job. Missile attack of 4 is decent for horse archers. Melee attack of 5 is pretty good. Charge bonus of 4 is okay. Total defense is 14, so they're pretty similar to these guys, just on horseback, and they give mobility but lose long-range missiles. Recruitment cost is okay. They're not too expensive to maintain. They have good morale, but they don't have good stamina, and they don't have long-range missiles. But they're horse archers. Any horse archers are good in this game. It's just that all of your neighbors, again, have better horse archers than you do. The Albanians, well, actually the Albanians might not, but the Hungarians have better horse archers, I would argue. The Wallachians definitely do, and the Turks absolutely do. Yeah, I take that back. Some of your neighbors don't have great horse archers or don't have horse archers at all, so these guys aren't bad. But then you have your more elite horse archers, and this is one of my favorite looking units in the game, particularly this gentleman here with this, I don't even know what you would call it. It's like a sideways metallic plume. Looks so cool. Love the shields. I love how these guys look. And they're just better in every way. Well, their missile attack is 1 less, but at that point it doesn't really matter because they have long-range missiles. They will be firing long before. And melee attack of 4 is great. Total defense is of 21, which is insane for horse archers. That's really good. Excellent morale. They are feudal units, so they get free upkeep and settlements. The problem with these guys is that in all the campaigns I've had as Serbia, I've recruited maybe 2 of these units, and the reason for that is because you can only recruit them from the highest tier of the feudal buildings, which it's almost not worth it. I mean, I would just use these guys instead, even though they're not quite as good. So that's a bit unfortunate. They don't make their appearance as often as you would like, especially given how cool these helmets are. But it's still a great unit. And then finally we get to one of Serbia's most famous or perhaps infamous units, and that is the Hussars, or the Serbian Hussars. And this is the unit you will want to rely on, I would say, almost more than any other unit. These guys will change your campaign. They are so powerful for a couple of different reasons. So let's look at them. A defense of 13 is pretty terrible, especially since their defense skill is half of that, more than half of that, which means missiles will devastate these guys. But that's okay, because they are meant to run faster than missiles in a way. Their attack of 7 is great. Charge bonus of 15 is devastating. Expert at hiding in woods. They can hide. They're good ambushers. They have excellent morale, powerful charge, very good stamina, which is very rare in this mod, and very powerful. And then the cherry on top is frighten nearby enemy infantry. So if you are able to flank the enemy infantry with this unit and get in a charge of 15, they will typically defeat any enemy infantry unit in 1 charge. That's how powerful they are. And then on top of that, you add that they're very easy to recruit. They're not too expensive, and they're not too expensive to upkeep as well. Always recruit these guys when you can, always, because they're just so powerful. And you can recruit them as mercenaries too, as other factions, but the upkeep cost is almost twofold. So this is the power of Serbia right here, is the Hussars. And other than that, yeah, I would say Serbia is a great faction. They're one of my favorite rosters just because you have incredible infantry. It's not the best, but it's very good. Your missile units suffer a little bit, but you can make up for it. And then your cavalry is very good. Not excellent, but very good, with the exception of the Hussars, which are one of the best units in the game, I would say, especially early and mid-game. So with that, I have one more thing to show, and that is this. Okay, the last thing I just want to show, and I want to do this for all of my campaigns, well, all of my videos, I should say, is just to kind of show what you can do with these factions. So with Serbia, this is one of my Serbian campaigns. You can say it is turn 64, year 1163, so 10 years after the collapse of Constantinople. And I'm doing pretty well as Serbia, I would say. 27 regions controlled. I only need 13 more, including Constantinople, though, which is going to be a little tricky. Let's see, who am I at war with? At war with the Hungarians, as always, and they hate me with everything in their being. But I do have some allies. I'm actually allies with the Turks, the Vlachians, and the Principality of Kili. So yeah, it was a good campaign. I'll probably continue it. But as you can see, I came down here. My first thing I did was come down and wipe out the Venetian colonies as well as Albania to secure my southwestern border, as well as give me access to the Adriatic Sea, which is it's a pretty rich region. And then the Turks ended up attacking me to the north, and I basically focused on just holding in the north while I pushed in the south. And you can see that I took quite a few settlements from the Turks, which was fun. I want to get all the way to the Aegean and take Thessaloniki, but we'll have to wait. Also, I believe, yes, so you can recruit these guys, the elite halberdiers, in several different locations. Yes. So anyway, after Albania and war against the Turks, I pushed against the Hungarians. I pushed way into Hungary. I'm, well, now into the Hungarian plains. I've crossed the Danube. This is actually the most recent thing I've done. Right before that, I took out Bosnia. And I have an uneasy peace with the Ragusans, but we have fought in the past. So I'm just kind of focusing on holding the line right now. We are at peace, though, so maybe they'll leave me alone. And yeah, I've got some good units just focusing on holding the lines, and then up in Hungary are my 2 elite armies, which, well, I need them because Hungary has a few full stacks over there. But if you look, you can see I've recruited a lot of these halberdiers. They're just so powerful. I've got dismounted Serbian knights and bowmen. And then over here, you can see my main killers are the hussars. They almost have full experience just because I've used them so many times. Bunch of halberdiers, spearmen. I'm trying to recruit cannons now. Let's see, this is one of my top generals. I actually need to work on his chivalry or dread, but his command is pretty good. Then if we look at my top guys, actually my faction leader is not the greatest. But his job was to make as much money as possible, and I built up Novoberdo as much as I could, and you can see that he's making quite a lot of money per turn, which is very necessary as Serbia, because a lot of the Balkan regions aren't the richest at the beginning of the game. You kind of have to build them up, but as you can see, I have 26,000 coins, which it can be lost pretty easily, but it's enough to keep me going right now. So yeah, that was just kind of a brief overview of how my... Oh, I forgot I did this. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, it was a couple weeks ago I played this campaign, so I'm actually pushing all the way up the Danube, almost to the gates of Vienna, with a pretty nice army. And yeah, there are some units I didn't cover in the battle map portion, but I will cover them later. But one thing I will say is the mercenary crossbowmen, I've recruited a lot of them because they have long-range missiles and a missile attack of 10. So that's a pretty good unit to kind of supplement your Serbian military with, and they're pretty easy to recruit. So yeah, that's pretty much it for Serbia. Feel free to leave any comments or things I missed out, recommendations or whatnot about the next faction you want me to cover. I'm thinking possibly, actually, if we turn this off, I'm thinking I might cover the Bavarians next. I had a pretty successful campaign playing as them. But I don't know. There's so many to choose from, and I have not played as the factions. I've played as most of them, but there's a lot more to experiment with. So anyway, that is it for the Serbian faction. If you are interested in 14th century history, 13th, 14th, and 15th, but primarily 14th, especially over in the east, in Anatolia and beyond, I have a podcast called the Timur Podcast where I cover the life, conquests, character, and legacy of Amir Timur, or Tamerlane, as he's known in the West. And I haven't released an episode in a little while, but there are more on their way. So check that out if you're interested. Other than that, I will see you again soon.